And what I'm going to take you through now is a demand-side case study application that weaves the data sets together. So let's remove everything here. And I might be a Melbourne, interested in Melbourne in this particular case. And I will search for that and zoom elsewhere. So I might be a state government, a network business, or a private service provider looking to develop an integrated urban energy efficiency and load management program, like air conditioning efficiency upgrade linked with a device that allows a householder to remotely switch on their air conditioning so that they can pre-cool their house during the day using the spare energy from their solar panels, so that they don't need to turn on their air conditioning when they get home, driving a 6 p.m. network peak. So you might even be so bold as to throw in some home insulation or something if it wasn't so politically challenged. But you can do, if that's what you were looking at, we can go here and we'll load up our network opportunities proposed investment data set, like so. And we'll have a look to check what season is actually constraining these. And in almost all cases, it's summer. So that's a good start, which is compatible with the case that we're talking about. And then we want to see, well, which ones of these are actually deferrable? So we click our deferrable investment and you can see a whole bunch of these grey out. So they're not the ones of interest. It's these ones over here that are the ones that might carry some value. So then we will see which ones of these translate to an annual deferral value. So we turn that on. And if I'm interested in developing a product or a project in 2018, ready for a 2019 market readiness, say, let's click on the 2019 map, and you can see a whole number of opportunities coming up here. So here's one of relatively high value, which you can click on. West Brunswick and City Power carries a fairly substantial value. I'm just going to click expand here, and that graphs that for us down below. Here's another one just over here in Fairfield. So that's another one that's got a fairly high value. Let's look at the annual deferral value there, and we can add that one to our map. And then there's also another this interesting one we looked at earlier from AusNet is another one that carries a pretty substantial value. So let's add that to our map, and you can now, to our graph, now you can see that sort of looking at a market readiness in these areas around 2019, 2020 is actually looking pretty good. But what we might want to know about those particular places is then how relevant is it to have, do they have the right load profile for load shifting away from a 6 p.m. peak? So let's just remove all of that clutter. I'll put our proposed investment back on again. And I'm going to put on our peak day available capacity to be able to find out this information about these, about the time of day that these are constrained. So I'm going to click down here. Hopefully, looks like my computer is struggling to catch up. Here we go. I've clicked on 6 p.m. as you can see, and so now we can look at some of the zones where we were seeing those constraints. Let's have a look at West Brunswick, for example. That's an interesting one. It does actually look like it probably has a 6 p.m. peak, but that might be a data anomaly. It might be that might actually be a load transfer that the network did on the peak day to actually ensure that a constraint didn't bite. So let's expand that one and look at our one up here, perhaps at KLO, and you can see that that one's absolutely perfect for a 6 p.m. It's a very peaky, residentially driven load curve. So that could be a really promising opportunity. And then you look at our other one that we identified in Fairfield, and we'll look at the available capacity there. And you can actually see the load curve there is completely different. It looks quite industrially driven with a very, very long sort of peak from morning to night. And we can expand on that. So probably what that tells you is that that particular zone is probably not the best thing. The Fairfield one is probably not the best application of this particular technology, and maybe you should focus the efforts on these other ones. So that gives you a bit of a flavour for what you can do with this. And then if you were wanting to sort of dig in a little more and go down to looking at the opportunity in, say, West Brunswick, you could turn on your Street View style map with labels. You can adjust your layer transparency so you can actually see what's underneath, and you can start looking at the streets, looking at the different types of buildings and developments, be it commercial, residential, and get a feel for what that program might actually look like. So, and if you then wanted to know any more about it, you can click on the information and find the annual planning report right here, straight through to the network business without having to trawl the web. And you can search for West Brunswick, and there you can find out a whole bunch of even more detailed information right at your fingertips. So that really gives you a flavour for how far you can get with open data in being able to develop opportunities and business models in this new centralised energy ecosystem.